And may the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. I first have to say, what a glorious day. To see all of you here, two families of mine, really, the family that raised me up to be a priest, St. Martin's, and, of course, the congregation that called me as their rector, St. Mary Magdalene. It's just a wonderful, spirit-filled day. So I'm just excited about that. And I have to say, Father Bernie and I kind of said, it's been, well, since the beginning of COVID, since we've really kind of done a big procession and stuff like that, so we're all a little rusty. So forgive us for that. But what does it take for us? What does it take for us as a people, or even as the church, to be great? Most people, if we're honest, would think that greatness is probably related to success. It's about power, control, fame, wealth, reputation. I mean, have we ever seen a losing team with two fingers in the air celebrating that they were number 2? Probably not. And can you imagine a political slogan about making our country a servant of other countries? Probably not. Who wants to be a servant of all anyway? Being last and being a servant of all is not what we usually strive for. But if being great, holding the number 1 position, means being last and being the servant of all, then we've completely misunderstood what greatness is really about. And the disciples, well, they don't understand greatness any more than we do. What are you arguing about along the way? Jesus asked them, but they were silent. For they had argued with one another who was the greatest, and Jesus did not get an answer to his question. Only silence. The argument happened on a public road out in the open. His question, however, is asked in the privacy and interior space of a house. This is about more than a change in physical location. Jesus is moving the conversation inward. He's not gathering information for himself, but he's inviting the disciples' self-reflection and childhood. And it makes it difficult for us to understand what Jesus is telling us when he picks up the child and puts it into the midst of the disciples. You see, the child is a symbol for something else. The child is a symbol of vulnerability, of powerlessness, of dependency. The child in Jesus' day had no rights, no status, no economic value. The child was considered a consumer, not a producer. Children in Jesus' day were almost worthless. That is, they did not have any worth as children. At best, their worth was determined by their potential as a future adult. But half of all children in Jesus' day were not expected to live to be an adult. Slaves had a higher status than children. And if you were a female child, well, your status was even lower. So Jesus' point in raising up a child in his arms is not about educating children, nor is his point about encouraging the best out of our children, even though that is important. Jesus' point is more radical, it's more subversive. Jesus publicly handles and embraces a child with care, which in and of itself was a lowly action and reserved only to women. Yet Jesus embraces the child. It doesn't say whether it's a boy or a girl. The gender would have made a difference given the cultural norms, but we're not told because it doesn't matter to Jesus. Jesus commands his disciples to welcome children, all children, which, because children are on the lowest rung, means we, as his disciples, are to welcome everyone. See, Jesus is radically confronting the existing structures of power and privilege and piety. Jesus, not Caesar Augustus, represents the God of gods, and children represent Jesus. So Jesus' definition of greatness is to welcome the children. In other words, greatness is defined as what we have done for and what we have given to the least of these. The hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the sick, the imprisoned, the symbolic children in our lives. See, according to Jesus, greatness never puts itself in a position of superiority over another. It is not about me, my nation, my tribe, my people, my religion, my politics, my bank account, my house, my job, my status. Our greatness is revealed in our service and our care of others, regardless of her or his or their ability or willingness to pay, repay, or return the favor. When Jesus talked about loving others, even when they don't love you, doing good to others who do not do good to you, lending without expectation of repayment, inviting to supper those who cannot invite you back, he was describing greatness. Greatness comes to us when we share with others who have nothing to share with us. Think of the young boy who shared his 5 loaves and 2 fish with 5,000 people who contributed nothing but their hunger. He was great. Greatness comes when we forgive one who has neither asked for our forgiveness nor changed their behavior. Those who refuse to carry bitterness or envy toward another, that is greatness. When we respond to the needs of others, when we refuse thoughts and actions of hatred and prejudice, then greatness comes. When we refuse to objectify the opposite sex or to join in jokes about minorities or foreigners, that is an act of greatness. When we overcome fear, when we tear down walls, when we make room for one who is different, who is vulnerable, or who is in need, then we are great. You know, last week I heard one of our preschoolers in chapel praying that we would be kind to each other. She is on her way to greatness. Greatness is not something to be achieved. It's not something to be earned. It is a quality that arises within us when our lives are in balance and we step into our better selves. And that's the life that Christ offers us. And that's the life I want to live, because I want to be great as Jesus defines greatness. Don't you? You know, tomorrow Jesus will set a child before each of us, and I wonder if we will choose greatness. Tomorrow Jesus will set a child in front of the church, and I wonder if together we will choose greatness. Today is a special day, because today we have 2 great congregations beginning a journey together. And Jesus will set a child before us. Will we respond in greatness? Whoever wants to be first must be last, and servant of all. Amen.